One early morning in Ponyville, Rarity was opening her store as normally, but this time she was waiting for a package. She was waiting for a package from some of the new designs that Coco Pumel had made for her back in Manhattan. She had been waiting for this package for about almost 2 weeks, even though it was supposed to be arrived almost about a week earlier. But unluckily though, seems this package had just vanished. Even Rarity had been to the post office several times for the past week, asking Derpy or any other pony who's there to ask for help. Ask for if they could maybe find out or at least track down where her package had been, since this is not the first time her package had just vanished or ended up in a different location. But she wasn't much angry this time. She just wanted to some answers why her package hasn't even arrived yet. But Derpy or the others have said that they're still trying to find out where the location of her package is. So far, it is just AI, or that it's just missing. So even though that Rarity were a bit frustrated that her package hasn't even arrived yet at the moment, even she were trying to figure out what to do. She had to ask Coco Pomel if she did send it to Ponyville, which she confirmed. Even she hadn't even been to the post office to make sure that she actually put the right address for Rarity. And the post office did confirm it was going to be delivered to Ponyville. So Rarity then had asked when she went to Manhattan just to ask herself. And even the post office service there always confirmed that the package was supposed to be delivered. She even asked the post office there if she could talk to the post pony who is supposed to be delivered. But unfortunately, the post pony hasn't even arrived yet. She was actually also vanished, or at least she was on vacation, because shortly before she was supposed to deliver it, she went on vacation. So the Rarity was informed by the post office in Manhattan that she had to wait to see when the package arrived. That's all much they can do. All that they can do that is just wait or that they will inform her if they have found the package. So for the next couple of days, Rarity was still very frustrated, and even her friends had noticed that. Even though there was some verification from school, she tried to make it work in her own store. Even if most of her friends had seen that she was getting more angry that her package hasn't even arrived yet. But one early afternoon, Rarity hears a knock on the door when she was in the shop, and it was a Pengasine by the name Dusty Ember. She was a local. She said that the Rarity that she had found this package near outside town, just near Every Forest, and that was supposed to be delivered to her. And when she seen the package, and she would have wondered if this could be the one that she has been waiting for. So she opened it, and it is. But then it figure out how could the package end up near every forest and suddenly did not be found. And even Dusty Amber just maybe figure out just said, what if that is that the post office pony by accident dropped the package somewhere near every forest on the delivery during by some accident, and that they didn't even realize it. They didn't even notice that the package was gone. To Rarity, though, to her this was the most logic answer that she could maybe figure out was true, because that has happened before to other ponies in town, that the post office has lost their mails or packages or any bigger deliveries. But nevertheless, Rarity had got her package, and that she thanked her friend Dusty Amber for that. But Dusty Amber, she asked Rarity if it was possible that she could maybe design a new dress for her. She was going out on a date and that she wanted a new dress. And Rarity, she lighted up and said immediately, yes, darling, I can help you with that. So they went inside And then, of course, she even asked Dusty Ember what the designs she wants on the dress and what colors and like that. After taking her measures and sort of things, after a while, she promised that the dress will be done within the next 2-3 days. So, after during the 2 days later, when Dusty Ember arrived to the store, to the shop, the dress was finished, and it was the most amazing dress, she said to her. She thanked and Rarity paid for it, and only about the next day, when Rarity was nearby the park, she heard a lot of crying. She first didn't want to be much nosy about it, but she saw it was actually Dusty Ember. She wondered, why is she crying? Something wrong? So she walked up to her, and it turned out on when she asked her that her supposed boyfriend, which she had been dating for the past 6 months, had left her because he wanted to move to Manhattan for a bigger part of work, and that he had actually asked her if she wanted to move there with him, but she didn't want to leave her old home. She has all her friends there. But he said you can always make new friends back home, and you can always go back visit for them. But she didn't want to leave, since she had a great job in Ponyville as well. And she didn't want to leave, especially now she has her grandmother, who is the only family member she has left. And that made them to break up. And Rarity could not have been more sad for them both. But now, Rarity then said maybe that she will find some pony else to be with. And Rarity was hopeful that she was right, because within about a few days later, she saw that Dusty Ember with another stallion. It was actually Caramel, a friend of Applejack. They were all now had started dating, so she was just happy to see that Dusty Ember was smiling again. But unfortunately, that luck, the happiness didn't last. Only about a week later, it was over between them. Caramel thought maybe there was something else that he wanted to do. He wanted something special. He said that he didn't want to be married or at the moment, or that he didn't want to have family. Just he wanted to be more experience life more, or there was something like that, and that made Dusty Amber very, very heartbroken. She had lost two boyfriends within a weeks apart. She wonders if this was sort of curse on her, and then she decided not to be dating any pony for a long time. But around the same time, Rarity was dating Fancy Pants, and they had been dating for about 2 years. And it seemed to go and get very much serious between them. And for one day soon, that Rarity really hoped that Fancy Pants would have proposed to her. Even though that she knew that Spike had a crush on her, after he told her, but she gently turned him down, saying that she only liked him as a friend, or like as a brother. He took it quite well at first, but after some time he started dating Sweetie Belle instead. Though, but one day when Rarity were in Cantlot to see Fancy Pants, he informed her that he thought maybe it wasn't working out between them, so he decided there was not time to maybe break up between them. And the reason why that he had fallen in love with the supermodel Fleur de Lis, an old friend of his, and that made her even heartbroken. She had really hoped to be with him forever, like have family of the whole, living and growing old together. But this was something she never had expected to happen. When she came back home, she ran all the way to the shop, eating a lot of ice cream. She refused to see anybody, even her friends and family. She locked them in her room and didn't leave it for days. But one day, though, when Rarity was still very much in her room and refused to leave, Rainbow, Applejack, and Twilight came to bite Seer, but she had locked the door. But then, even though that Twilight opened the door and Rarity just told them to leave immediately. But Rainbow said, Rarity, you have been miserable by the past week. You should move on. Things happens. Even look at me. Me and Soren, we dated for about a year, but he decided he wanted to be with Spitfire, and I accepted that. Even I was heartbroken, but we had to move on. Like, easy for you to say, she said, Rarity, crying. You enlisted dating for about a year. Yeah, but you were for 2 years. And it was more even serious for that, said Applejack, even more a little bit angry. Listen, Rarity, said Twilight. Love is easy to move on from. Oh, this never should have come from you. You haven't been dating any pony. And that took Twilight really hard. But she had a point. Since Twilight hasn't been dating any particular stallion for about the past a year, she had been dating one particular stallion was actually Caramel, also for about almost a few weeks. But even though that Rarity had a point, Twilight didn't take it as much as serious, or as much as an offensive. Rarity, listen, things are sometimes not easy to embrace. Love is sometimes works mysterious way. We all know that. And it was silent for a moment. Shukiyub, she's right. Listen, every time we have tried when we have found someone to be with, sometimes it some kind of lead to broken heart. Even for my parents, for example. You know what happens to them. I mean, both of them are their families they hate each other. But they try to keep it to their relationship or their love a secret for all this as long as possible. Until my dad proposed to my mom. Do you think it was easy for him to be realizing that she was going to move to Vancouver across the country? It's so far away from us. If she did, either me or my siblings have to be born. She's right, Rarity, said Twilight the Silent. And Rarity realized something in his life cannot be changed. I know that now, said Rarity. I'm sorry for my act like this. I don't. I hate to be lonely, said Twilight. Yeah, we know, said Applejack. Like I said, life isn't that easy. If it was so easy, it would be life. The life itself would be boring. Yeah, quite boring that life would be, said Rainbow just sarcastically. But, Rarity, said Rainbow, do you think I would have been act like the same thing as if I lost Soren like that? No, said Rarity. No. You see, he had a point. We tried at least as long as possible. And things sometimes doesn't even work out, so just move on. Learn from the experience and maybe work that and learn from your experience and maybe if you find someone else to be with, learn from that and maybe work it out so that that doesn't happen again. And that made Rarity realize that Rainbow had a point for once. You're right, Rainbow. I just not stop crying like this. So the next day, Rarity went back to the store to her shop as normal. But this time, she had a guest. It was actually Dusty Ember. Dusty Ember had been waiting outside the shop for about a few hours, at least an hour before Rarity arrived. Dusty Ember, what are you doing here? You don't have any appointment booked, right? No. I wanted to talk to you. And they walked in. Then Rarity made some tea for them both, but then wanted to talk. At first, Dusty and Amber were quite long, silent for a moment. What is it that you want to talk about? And then Dusty Amber said, You Sorry, darling? You, me? And then Dusty Ember managed to explain why she was there. And it turned out over the past about a few days, Dusty Ember had been fallen in love with Rarity. Not only because of his generosity, her kindness, but her beauty, and but most of her all, her generosity for most. They had so much in common. They liked the same music, they liked the same fashion style. Even they were almost opposite, but the same had much in common. Rarity was just silent. She was stunned. She could not even expecting that Dusty Amber had fallen in love with her. But Amber, Dusty Amber, I don't know what to say. But then Dusty Amber realized that maybe Rarity doesn't even like her same way back. Maybe she doesn't like mares. So she didn't say much, just stood up and left the shop. Rarity just stood there, surprised what just happened. She didn't realize that then, that how much Dusty Amber really cared about her. But for next couple of days after, she didn't see Dusty Amber anywhere. And in fact, she even had asked around the town if they had seen any pony had seen her. But most of the ponies hadn't even seen her. Only Derpy had seen her only early in the morning when she went to see her grandmother. But other than that, she hadn't seen her. Since her grandmother lived in a retirement home in town, so Rarity decided maybe to go see if she had been there, or if she's still there. But unfortunately, though, she wasn't there. But she was able to talk to her grandmother. And it turns out the grandmother was already knew about her granddaughter's feelings towards Rarity. Because she had mentioned about name, and she had actually her grandmother's very so much support. She was very afraid that her grandmother would somehow disown her from the family that she likes only mares instead. But as long as that her granddaughter is happy, she is happy. But then Rarity had asked grandmother if she knew where she could find Dusty Ember, and in any place she wanted to talk to her. The only place that she could maybe figure out was near the lake outside town, which she often were sitting when she was a kid after she lost her parents. So she went there, and correctly she was there, sitting there by the lake, just sitting there silently. But when Dusty Amber heard that Rarity was coming up, she tried to run away, but Rarity said stop immediately. She needed to talk to her for about something. And Dusty Amber just went back to the ground and then sat there silently. They talked for about almost an and a half hour, but then Rarity said that she would be willing to give Dusty Amber a chance at dating her. That made her realize something that maybe it isn't worth it to try to give it at least a chance of dating her. So she did. They decided to go to a restaurant the next day evening. So during the day, when the next day, Rarity was looking forward to her date with Dusty Amber. She wonders how this could work out. Will it work out as is there any chance for them being together, or something else happened? But she was willing to give it as much a chance as possible. After all this, when the date came, both of them were so excited but also both at the same time nervous. Because when they went to the restaurant, both of them were so silent after they had just ordered the food, they were still silent. They barely said a single word to each other. Which but then Rarity tried to break his silence by saying that she liked her dress, and what actually the same what she had made for her, and that she looked very much beautiful in it. That made Dusty Amber to smile. Even though that for something about Dusty Amber when she looked at her, her eyes was sparkling, like there was stars in them. And even after the date, both of them actually walked together to Dusty Amber's home. And there they actually shared the first kiss. And only about a day later, soon had she actually Rarity actually had told her friends about her date with Dusty Amber, and even about the kiss. Even Pinky of all her friends was so super excited. She really wanted for a party, and what she did. They all celebrated their first date with Dusty Ember, and even Pinky wanted to hear all details about this date, how it went, what they did, what they talked about. But they were surprised. They were a bit surprised that they didn't talk much at first because they were quite nervous. But Rarity said, "Well, I didn't know what to talk about at first, but after a while we started small talk, and after that it just went perfect between us." Even after all this, she was happy that her friends would support her. But when she told her family about this, they weren't much surprised though, because they had a feeling something was between her and Dusty Ember. Since it turned out though that her father has actually seen her with Dusty Ember at a restaurant from a distance. At first thought maybe they were just talking as a friends, but since they both were nicely dressed, he thought this must be the date that Rarity had talked about. And Sweetie Blue, she was really happy her sister that she had found someone to be with. After all this, things seemed to be working well between them. Until there was one day though, when suddenly that's Rarity got invitation from Fancy Pants and Fleur de Lis's wedding. And she was feared a bit confused, nervous. She didn't know if she wanted to go to the wedding because it was her ex-boyfriend's wedding with his new fiancée, and she didn't know how things would react, how it turns out if she did go. But Dusty Amber managed to convince her to go, and she would go there with her as support. And and of course, at first she was very nervous how Fancy Pants would react that she had a girlfriend now instead of a boyfriend. But Fancy Pants said, "Well, Miss Rarity, I'm just happy that you have found someone to be with. If someone will makes you so happy, then I'm just happy that you're happy." And hearing that from him made Rarity was just happy or smiling. Even though when after this wedding, Rarity was cried, and she even managed to catch the bouquet from that were release flow away. In which tradition, it meant that the who to catch it will be the one to be next married. And when Dusty Amber saw this, she really blushed and seemed meaning that they will probably one day end up married soon, and she wonders, is that something that she wants to do soon? Since they will only be dating for about almost less than a few months. Even though when Rarity had just talked about to Fluttershy and Twilight about the wedding afterwards, how beautiful they were, and when she caught the bouquet, and also when Twilight mentioned about the tradition, and that made her blush a lot, and she didn't want to talk about it much, but then they just by some casually asked if she had been thought about marrying Dusty Emperor someday. And Rarity said, "Well, maybe one day. I just not right now, darling. I mean, we only have been dating that long yet, so." They both already understood that. But something did happen. Shortly afterwards, Rarity and Dusty Ember had to talk about something about their future. Dusty Ember had talked maybe they could maybe try to move in together, but Rarity said that they had not been together, that had been dating that particular long ago. Even after all this happened, they had tried to make it out work, but they talked more about this, but Dusty Ember felt that she said, I feel ready to move in, but we have not been dating that long. And it turns out even then turned into more argument. And of course, they had this big fight. And then Dusty Amber just run away and she just slammed the door after when she left the shop. She refused to even see or talk to Rarity for nearly a month. And her friends, especially Rarity's friends, were getting worried about this. Since before the fight, they were always happy. But now they refuse to even look at each other. And they start worrying how this beautiful relationship and suddenly turn to end up into just nothing. More than just nothing else, like enemies. So they all try to maybe try to figure out how to save their particular relationship or maybe at least make them try to talk and work it out. But Twilight had realized though maybe there was something that they could try, but Applejack, who is the more moral of all, said, "Stop, not help them." And the others were just, "Why?" This is something that they had to try to work it out. Only with our involvement could only make it worse. Think about it. How since ever since they start dating, Rarity has been so happy then ever since. And if we did try to involve in their lives, how would things happen? Do you think it would only be worse if they tried, if we involved, things would go turn out even worse between them? I mean, for example, what if they end up so worse that Dusty Amber even wanted them leaves Polynomial for good? Have you ever considered for that possibility? And Twilight said, yeah, I didn't think about that. So they all decided to stay away from that. But only a few days later, Rarity actually went to see Dusty Amber, even though that she didn't even want to talk. She said to Dusty Amber that she felt sorry, and that this fight they had, it was just stupid, crazy. She didn't mean any of what she said. If that if if Dusty Amber felt ready to move in, she maybe wanted to try to work it out, but not move in directly in one place. She had a more simple idea. How about if that they stay together, move in, but that Rarity move into Dusty Amber's place for like a week? They turn out that they stay 1 week for at each of their places just for a week to see if they could work out as they thought. So even Dusty Amber, she thought about it and she agreed to the test. First, the first week, they was only going to stay in Rarity's boutique in her home, and it seems going well between them. They was like perfect between them. But when the week was over, they went to see if it was going to be working at Dusty Amber's home, and it actually also worked. So, Dusty Amber had offered her place that Rarity can move into, and she did. Only a few days later. But she did actually went back to her old home. Just sometimes when she were working late, she didn't want to go home to her new place if it was late middle of the night. And Dusty Amber didn't say much about that. She thought they was actually okay with that. But there was something about their relationship that made them so happy together. And after being dating for about almost 4 years, Dusty Amber actually thought up the courage and asked Rarity to marry her, which Rarity said yes immediately. But after all this, Rarity felt so unbelievable happy to be with Dusty Ember. Even after the wedding itself, though. Even though during the wedding, Dusty Ember had asked Applejack to be her bridesmaid, and Fluttershy had been asked by Rarity. Even at the party that organized by Pinky and Discord of all, they all had a great time. Even during the first dance when they shared together. Dusty Ember and Rarity just looked deeply in each other's eyes, and for them both, it felt like they were the only ones there, like the whole world was just still. And they later even went to Las Pegasus for about a week of the honeymoon. And they had just amazing time with the rides, the new shows, and everything. They just had a great time. And 2 years later, they wanted to start a family. They asked Twilight for help. Rarity decided to be pregnant first, though, and she actually had a boy, who was also turned out to be a Pegasi. And when the son was about 4 years old, they decided to have another baby. And Dusty Amber decided to be pregnant this time. But surprising, she actually had triplet daughters. All two of them were Pegasi and one unicorn. They were not unbelievable surprised to that. But nevertheless though, they actually loved their four kids together. They could not have been happier to be with the one they loved the most. If Rarity had never been going out on a date with Dusty Amber, she never would have found her true love, never been had this amazing family. Or if she didn't have caught the bouquet at the wedding, she maybe never had been, never probably had been to be end up married with her future girlfriend. Or unless they had never worked out the fight they had, and they never had still not been together. So both of them were actually happy that all these both scenarios end up married. And even for both of them, this was the most amazing time in their whole life. Being married and having a two and even have four kids together was something they both wished came the true most. And that's how Rarity and Dusty Amber found a true love got a big family. The end.